It was a great time to be an Oceanics fan after 2018. Your team had just finished in third place, which was significantly higher than their 10th place finish in 2016 and their 11th place finish in 2017. And you were probably guessing that the Oceanics themselves were just as happy too, right? Wrong. The way the Oceanics fell to third left a negative mark on the team. C compared their feelings to the 2016 Thunderbolts, saying, quote, "Well, the ending feels very much like the 16 Bolts. You hold first overall for several events throughout the year, you have the lead going into the final event, and then two teams clutch up and take the title away from you. It's hard to be all positive losing the way we did." In a year where the Oceanics placed higher than 13 other teams, they left disappointed and felt they had a chip on their shoulder. Instead of just appreciating what they got, they thought about what could have been. Eventually, JMR decided to ask the Oceanics to host the very next Marble League. They graciously accepted, thinking they could ride the wave of their third place finish into the next league. It was here, though, where they were sadly mistaken. Instead of riding the wave, they drowned. It's time we check out the 2019 Oceanics. The Oceanics had one goal in their mind when coming into the 2019 Marble League: do well in water events. Water was the theme, so if you master the water, you have a pretty good shot at winning the whole thing, or at least that's what Tide was thinking. Speaking of Tide, he became the coach of the Oceanics during the offseason, and came up with a training pack that, well, only featured water training. This, of course, is not a good strategy, but Tide believed that the Oceanics had done well in non-water events during the 2018 Marble League. He thought that water training was the missing piece. Another reason the Oceanics only focused on water training was because they had to set up the competition. That can be pretty stressful, and it's a tough workload. But they managed to do it all. They completed their training, the stadium was ready to go, and the Marble League 2019 Friendly would be starting next week. Let's go see how they did. The city was very much ready to go. The fan base was more passionate than ever, and they even sold out their home stadium. Their hype was insane, and while they certainly lived up to it in the Friendly. Well, the first three events, that is. They started out extremely well. Remember when we said Tide was confident the Oceanics were solid in everything else? Well, his point looked very correct. In those first three events, the Oceanics had 2 gold medals. One of those golds was in the relay run, where they displayed an incredible comeback, going from last place to gold.
The relay race, always entertaining. We'll put together a complete performance as a team. Savage Speeders out in front. The Rangers holding on to second place, but now the Midnight Wisps take it, and now they take the lead. Watch to the inside. Oceanics are going to get the win.
It's very impressive what the Oceanics have done, mainly because of the competition they faced. All 3 of their competitors were the last 3 champions. Not only that, but they've placed in the top 4 7 times between them. So there was one more event to go, the underwater race. This could be their chance to prove to everyone that they are for real, that they do not fear the water. So how did they do? Now, they didn't do horrible. They did get last, but it was pretty close. But any result that wasn't first was going to disappoint Tide.
Rangers take the lead back. Midnight Wisps trying to hold off several. Fighting for third place. Rangers, are they going to be challenged in the final few spins? No, they won't.
He said on the sidelines, quote, "Embarrassing. What was all that training for then?" This was actually a pretty public ordeal, as many expected the Oceanics to do well in water after their hyped-up training. But many local newspapers noted how water events would not be the only event. As long as they did well in other events, they'd be fine. The first event of the Marble League, though, would be in the water. Let's get into the real thing. Over 11,000 marbles attended the competition. The crowd at the 7C Stadium was ready to go. Like we just said, the first event was a water event, an underwater event. Ocean was put in this event. They were named captain during the offseason. Tide made that decision because, quote, "We excelled at our intense water training the best. It was truly amazing to see." And I mean, come on, it's very hard to argue against that statement. Just look at Ocean. They look like they'd be great in water. Now let's put those skills to the test. Ocean was actually putting up a solid performance before Snarl thought to himself, hey, Ocean is about to get a top half finish. That's not how this is supposed to go. And then they decided to fix destiny themselves and shove Ocean to the side, which stopped all of their momentum.
Nudged to the side by Balls of Chaos. Now watch to the far side. Green Ducks, they take the lead. They're very close with the Chocolates.
They ended up finishing last in the heat. Tide was apparently outraged over Snarl's move, which, might I add, was completely legal. But Tide's temper is something we'll revisit later on, as it's one of the main reasons they had to be fired. But we aren't there yet. The first water event ended in disappointment, but there was actually some good news. You see, the next 10 events were not in the water. There was time to contend. The Oceanics, though, were not as good at regular events as Tide advertised. Keep in mind that this is not a happy story. It's a sad and disappointing one. Things will only get worse. We're not quite at the climax, but this would be the start. Funnels were the very next event. 2 years ago in 2017, Aqua was able to earn a silver medal. And this year, it was a no-brainer to once again include Aqua in the event. Tide was supposedly excited to see Aqua compete in this one, mainly because Aqua vowed to fight for gold. Well, they didn't even get past the first round. There were several times where Aqua would fall through consecutive funnels. That's what ruined their chances completely. The Oceanics ended with the worst time of the day.
Finisher. Obviously, you want to avoid that distinction. There you go, and it will be the Oceanics. They come through in dead last. Crazy Cat's Eye next.
But they got super lucky that the O'rangers didn't even get a time, which allowed them to get a point and remain out of the 16th spot. The next event actually looked like things could turn around. Yeah, believe it or not, the Oceanics got a top half finish in the balancing event, albeit it was the last place in the top half, but to the Oceanics, this was an excellent event. I'm not even joking about that. It would end up being their 4th highest finish of the year, but they didn't know it yet. Tide was very pleased with the result, as it was similar to what they got back in 2016. So with a little bit of hope, the Oceanics came into a brand new event called the Gravitrax Slalom. This event was the first last place the Oceanics experienced. They did the opposite of what you're supposed to do, a statement you'll be hearing a lot of. They kept bumping with each other the whole way down. Ocean attempted to explain what went wrong, as they said, quote, "Well, once one bump occurred, it just kept going. We tried to fix it, but by the time we did, it was too late."
Not bad at all. Same cannot be said, however, for the Oceanics.
Fans were already pretty angry, with one saying, quote, "This isn't the Oceanics from 2018. It certainly felt like that. The next 2 events were the 5-meter sprint and relay run. They did well in the 5-meter sprint in 2017. The marble that raced that year was C. They would get the go in 2019 as well. But just like how Aqua regressed in the funnels, C did the exact same thing. This little sequence here ruined them completely. And for the 4th time in 3 events, the Oceanics placed last in a heat, causing them to drop to 15th. The relay run result was much of the same, except this time they got second to last in their heat. But their time was bad enough to place them 13th overall. With the Pinkies having the better finish, the Oceanics were now in last. Tide did a strange act following this event. He put most of the blame on the marbles, saying, quote, "When I was on the team last year, we had the heart of champions. We actually wanted to win. I have yet to see that this year." Based on that quote, it was quickly assumed that the locker room environment was awful. Those assumptions were right, but would quickly be surpassed.